Dr. Pushpa ji. Hari Om Payal ji. Hari Om. Hari Om ji. Namo ji. Namo Nama ji. Namo Nama ji.
Hariom ji.
Hari Om Vasudevan ji. Hari Om Dipti ji. Hari Om Rakhi ji. Hari Om Arvind ji. We'll just wait for 3-4 minutes and then we can begin. If anybody, Hari Om, Hari Om ji. Hari Om. If anybody has any queries, we can look at them until the participant is joined, and we can then start. Yesterday we had concluded with an interesting question, and I think Vasudevanji posed in front of all of us that how do we reconcile with this fact that Krishna is saying. So yes, anybody has had some time to ponder it. Even Vasudevanji, what was it in light of yesterday's discussion?
I'm still in the same place, I think.
Still in the same place. Okay.
I thought about some more.
Ji.
Maybe that the idea there is a drop that itself is not
Is not.
real.
It's not working out real. Krishna has, but he has told, no, ekanshena, but with.
But he's also saying that all beings are there all the time.
Yeah. That is the eternal aspect, is means there is a Shara and the Akshara part of the Vishwa. One, and there is something we will see later, Sharatita, Shara and Akshara, beyond what is Shara and Akshara, that has entered into the equation, and that remains.
The molecule itself is not there. Atom is also different.
So I think you are having now doubts in that second adhyay, no?
So I'm trying to reconcile, but
It is
then
okay.
I'm coming to the conclusion it can be possible only if the creation is dynamic.
Okay, it is creation is
Not like something was created and it's all perpetuating. No, it's instantaneous. Creation, protection, distribution, it's all instantaneous.
It's all
All
instantaneous.
happening all the time.
Now, but now, whose time frame are we looking at? Brahma's time frame or human time frame?
No time frame. Any time frame.
In any time.
It's always happening.
Okay.
Not
Ji.
just created and now we are all going to end. Or
Okay.
it was not created sometime. It is being created right now. Only that, then only this is possible, I am thinking.
Ji.
I can't explain my logic also.
Ji. No, Vasudevan. Yes, Vasudevanji. It's interesting, and I think probably as we explore, we may find something very. I think I do not know. Maybe when that link is connected, because what you question you had, some others did not have that same question, but that does not mean that's not a question that everybody should not have also, or should have as well. Hari Om Gita ji. So we can just let it. We can probably keep it in abeyance as a let our session go ahead with that. And but one thing is there. Krishna has told us. There is Indriyanam paranyahur indriyebhya param manaha manasastu para buddhi yo buddhe paratastu saha. There are things which are beyond the mind. So probably to analyze what is beyond the mind, we will have to also rise in our consciousness to go beyond the mind, because there are things beyond the limits of logic of the mind. Now how do we go there? That is something which probably sadhana or what Krishna has to say. Let us just, we will now, I think, Hari Om ji. Yes, please. Ji, Did. Hari Om. Hari Om. Shloka number 29. Achha, just one second. Alright, we'll look at this shloka once and then begin our session. प्रकृत्यैव च कर्माणि क्रियमाणानि सर्वशः यः पश्यति तथात्मानम् अकर्तारं स पश्यति. So this is it is Prakriti who alone engages and acts. In all the world's working she acts, but the self remains inactive and silently foresees. Whoever sees the truth, this truth of this world, truly sees. Somebody who is able to see that the Purusha is the Akartara, he is in the Akarta Bhava, he is participating in this world but not directly intervening. There is a creative spirit of the divine and there is an executive spirit of the divine. So the executive spirit has been passed on to Prakriti. It is Prakriti who is bringing about the execution of the Purusha's plan. There was a very nice, what we can say, a statement of the mother, about the mother in Sri Aurobindo. It is like one is incomplete without the other, and the other remains unexpressed. If you say Auroville, that was a vision of Sri Aurobindo's ideology was brought later, than an experiment was conducted to live that ideal, what Sri Aurobindo was saying, and that is the expression in the world. But again, one spirit is there for for what we can say creation. There is another for manifestation. So that is why we can say we should also be more interested in Prakriti at the moment, because Purusha is the Akarta, his counterpart, his appointed executive. There is no fight between Purusha and Prakriti. They are one. They are not two. You see that divide, you are going to confuse yourself only. But this role is now Purusha has created. It's like he started a organization. He's pumped in the funds for functioning of the organization, given the ideology of the organization, and then gone one step behind and allowed the executive officer to start functioning. So let the executive do the work now. I won't intervene even in the executive's work, because I trust the executive. That is the state. And now all the employees, yes, they will have respect for the founder and everything, but now the executive will also have to be respected to understand what is going on. Is it not, Deepti ji? So that is the akarta. But there is not akarta in Gita. There is also like, we must all go into that state of akarta, a karma state only, where we are not considering ourselves as the doer, because it leads to our own ahankar, it leads to our own attachments. So probably this is how even Purusha is doing. He says, I'm not doing anything. He's out of everything, though he is still involved. Yes, Deepti ji. Is that okay? All right. Hari Om. Hari Om. Yes, ji.
I have a doubt.
Okay, ji.
This union of Prakriti and Purusha,
Yeah.
that has created this whole
Yes.
universe.
Yes.
But this universe consists of living and non-living entity also.
Yes.
So, and presently we are just talking about living entities.
Why not? We have also talked all that is mobile, immobile. No, if you see even in everywhere, Krishna is also mobile, immobile, animate, non-animate also. But if you see what is again, if you see non-living entities also, what are they made up of fundamentally? They are alive. They are alive. There's continuous movement, there's continuous energy inside. We just do not see it manifesting in a different way, but it is there. It is said sometimes there is experiments. There is a consciousness of even machines. Some operators, when they go in factories, they operate to the machine, it functions correctly. And every time there is a breakdown, there that operator is called in that machine, and operator, some exchange of consciousness takes place. This operator is able to solve everything. He knows exactly what needs to be done. But other operators struggle. Not that they are not knowing about it, they have worked on several machines. But some consciousness is there even in objects. That is why the mother would say even keeping your objects around you should be in a perfect place. What we call yantras, is it not? When in a particular pattern it has been arranged, then they become alive. That conscious force of object is also there. So yes, animate or inanimate. That Krishna has also usually referred before as well.
No, yes,
Very
there
fact
is
exists.
inanimate.
Please, one person at a time, ji. Srinivas ji probably, and then Vasudevan ji.
No, what I want to know is these inanimate things. Are they in a process of their own evolution?
Could be, no, could be. But actually, for our that is now we'll have to look at it from a higher perspective. But for me, from human perspective, our evolution only takes place so slowly. I think first we are only like stones. We should only get evolved first before these changes take place. But yes, who knows? Who knows? Sri Aurobindo said ant can also become elephant, and that rule has been removed. That rule has to be removed. But Prakriti's rule has to be removed. What siddhi is to be gained if you have to break this rule also? But why not? Why not? There can be an evolution. What happens to the rocks? Rocks become soil. Soil then again gives birth to life. It is again a tattva, is it not? Yes, yes. Ji, yes, yes. Yes, please. I think maybe we'll just look at probably what Vasudevan ji is saying, and then we'll quickly start the session.
The very facts say they exist.
Yeah.
Rock or sand.
Ha.
means that Krishna or the
Asmi. Yes.
I can give an example.
Ha ha.
Take fire.
Ha.
You know that unless fire is there, means fuel must be there.
Ha. Yeah.
So similarly, even for any solid object to exist, there must be some basis.
Yeah.
Then that is the Paratotva.
Okay.
Without that, it won't
Okay.
exist.
Okay. Ji.
You know,
Yes, yes. Yes, yes. What was avyakta only has become vyakta, and now once it is vyakta means it is there. Asmi.
fire disappears.
Ahataha. Huh? Yeah.
For fire to exist, we need acceptable need.
Yes. Yes.
Similarly, for even solid objects like this, something else.
Okay.
That is the
All right.
way of
Ji, ji. Yes, Vasudevan ji. Ji, Hari Om. So I think with this we'll begin our session. I just request all participants who can turn on the video feeds, please do turn on the video feeds. It's easier to interact that way. Let us begin. Hari Om. Saraswati Namastubhyam Varade Kamarupini Vidyarambham Karishyami Siddhe Bhavatu Me Sadam Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Girim Yatkrupatamaham Vande Paramananda Madhavam Vasudevam Sutam Devam Kamsachanura Mardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. Hari Om. Hari Om. We are now entering into what is the 14th Adhyay. Hari Om. Hari Om, Dr. Anaji. Yes, Hari Om. So we are entering into what is the 14th Adhyay of the Gita. Before we enter into this, I think anybody in short, we've already seen a nice discussion today. It was quite a beautiful Vedantic discussion, a crisp one, but a very nice, deeper one. Probably when we go into states of meditation, we could actually ponder over it and maybe even find that. Because again, what is Brahma Vidya? That is the kingdom of the Vedanta only. And what does the Upanishad do? The Upanishad tries to grab that kingdom of Brahma Vidya or enter into that. Only each Upanishad chooses a different way. Katha Upanishad uses the story. Prashna is there in different, Kena Upanishad also, Prashna Upanishad also, through different questions, sometimes through different tarka, through metaphysical logic, whichever way, the direction is the same, the realization is to be sought. So we saw that, and before that, can someone just tell me something? We saw Kshetra, Kshetrajna, Vibhag. The second part was purely probably metaphysical. It was talking about Purusha and Prakriti. Something anybody can just tell a little bit and then we'll go ahead. We already had a small recollection of Purusha and Prakriti. Yes, please. Anything. A couple of lines. So we found the link and then we start. Yes, please.
In crux, we can say that the knowledge of Kshetrajna enlightens the
Ha.
Kshetra.
Okay, yes, ji.
In crux, we can say that.
Okay, okay, yes, that's a very important point. Yes, there is ultimately, when we saw, again we saw that different, and there are the five senses, five sense components, Pancha Mahabhutas, Man, and then there is that avyakta light, unmanifest light which is filled in the Kshetra. The way of Kshetrajna was taught, then Purusha, Prakriti. Somebody who understands the play of Purusha and Prakriti, that dance, can actually get moksha is also what the Gita says. And the aspect of when they are able to understand this, they are able to bring that light which is not manifest. They are able to make that light manifest in their lives. Their personalities change. People become transformed completely with realization. That is because the light of the Kshetrajna has started falling on that individual also. The individual appears different. Krishna has also said elsewhere in the Gita, Dadami Buddhi Yogam Tam. I will give you that, by which you will become unique, by which I will set you apart. By my light only it is going to set you apart. But for that you will have to first let go of your aham. That once that is gone, surrender to the divine. So this aspect of the light and manifesting of the light is told here. So now let us just enter into what is the next 14th Adhyay. Just one second, just one page seems to be missing here. Alright, yes, Chaturdashodhyay. Alright, let us begin. Before that, I think we can just look at the illustration. Yes, can somebody describe what you see here?
Can you zoom a little?
Okay.
It's talking about three different natures: Rajas, Tamas, Sattva.
Okay.
Wherein in the Rajas, it's like the person is in anger, or
Hmm.
he's like crying, or and as I know about Rajasic, it's more about the ego, and Tamas is he's very shabby. He's looking very shabby and lazy with all his hair scattered, and he's looking very very lazy and cluttered. And in Sattva, he's very peaceful, calm, praying to the God.
Is Sattva state egoless?
Egoless, yes.
All right, but then there is one thing. Prakriti has told us that Ahankar is a constituent of Prakriti only. Everybody has got Ahankar only.
No, but it's about more about conscious, right? I mean,
Probably
I
control of ego is there,
control of
control
like
of,
when I
but
do
not
meditation.
complete egoless state.
Yeah, because it's like when every each I mean each one of us has some element of Rajas, Tamas, and Sattva. But when let's say when we do meditation, we are in a particular conscious state where we are trying to like have a little control of things and
Okay.
then bring our mind into a better place.
Okay, Deepti ji has added something interesting that each of us have all three. All right, anybody would like to add something to what Deepti ji has shared? Yes, please. One more thing is there in the image which has not been talked about. Yes, please.
There's a meter here.
Okay.
It shows like a
Yeah. Probably select your nature. It's written.
and
Yeah.
then the color is just like changing. I mean, there's
Okay.
some light to dark. I don't know what's the significance of
All
that.
right.
There's a
Yes.
meter here.
Okay. There's a meter which is showing us the.
G.
Yes, please. Yes, please. Yes, ji.
We have to understand the actual nature of our own Then we have to try to come to
Cultivate.
that sattvic level
Okay.
through meditation, surrender, and all the things. We
Okay.
have to try
Okay.
to.
All right. All right. Pushpa ji is saying yes. We have to recognize probably Sattva nature is probably the best. It appears at least now. And from Rajas, Tamas, and Sattva, we need to understand our own nature. We must understand how we are, whatever these natures are, and then try to, with sadhana, with practice, with abhyasa, with yoga, with surrender, with bhakti, try to cultivate the sattvic nature. If you look at it, Rajasic nature is pretty agitated. A person with Rajas nature is very agitated in the image. If you look at the person who's Tamas, he looks pretty wearing shabby clothes. He's not even standing erect. He is just what we can say. He doesn't look very pleasing. Something is there. His clothes are
Being
also.
casual.
Yeah, yes, casual. Being casual is fine, but here, if you see the clothes look dirty, he's not in a position.
He's less bothered. I mean, not
Yeah,
taking care.
yes, yes. What we can say, completely out of the situation or something. He's not involved in anything at all. And sattva is the state of quietude. There's a young kid who is meditating. If you look at it, there is a quote below it which says, "We must learn to control. We must learn to control our restless nature and our lazy nature, and try to increase our peaceful nature." So basically, probably we have that choice to control, and it also indicates we have all three inside of us. So now, with this small introduction, we are ready to enter into the 14th Adhyaya of the Gita. It begins with Krishna's words. What is Krishna going to say? Let us see.
Sushruti,
Yes, ji.
just 1 second. You talked about the meter. So what does that signify?
We are able to select it. We have that choice of selecting. If you see, the meter is allowing us to choose which nature we want. So one thing we see is all three are present inside of an individual. Though the kids were all different for representative purposes, all three natures are inside of us. But the meter can be in our hands. We can choose what is going to manifest inside of us. So that is something. Who can choose? How to choose? That's something we'll have to see. Let us now begin. Rakhi ji, can I continue?
Yeah,
Yeah.
sure.
Yes, please. Ji ji. Hari Om. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Param Bhuyah Pravakshami Jnananam Jnanamuttamam Yajnatva Munayah Sarve Param Siddhi Mito Gataha. Once more to you I shall declare and lend, Sri Krishna speaks. What is the peak of knowledge that man can ascend? This paramount gnosis that the liberated sages have reached, by which the boundaries of mortal perfection have been breached. So he says, I shall lend to you that secret again. The reason Krishna is declaring, he is declaring the same truth in so many ways, and these are all so many secrets. That secret, if we realize in our life, we are going to easily manifest that divinity which is waiting to manifest. And here he is giving the example of these yogis, these Munayaha Sarve, all the Munis. Muni is also like an exalted status among the sadhaks. The great Muni, Kapila is a Muni, Narada is a Muni. They have reached that state of Adhyatmic sadhana. So these Munis who were liberated, they operated using this secret only, and using that they were able to breach the boundaries of mortal perfection. Siddhis were attained. What is a Siddhi? Siddhi means perfect, something which is perfect, perfection in a particular action. Now when we make a oil when we manufacture an oil according to some technique of Kalpana which is mentioned in Ayurveda, when it is readied, they call it Siddha Tailam, meaning Siddha, it has become perfect. We know it has become Siddha because there are certain tests for Siddhi, and the moment we see and we can actually tell it is Siddha. If it is not, it is going to be discarded because it has to reach that state. So this Siddhi, if even in little actions, sometimes if you see the nurses, they are such good experts in, just easily they inject medications and the patient does not even know. It looks like some mosquito has come and just touched the patient. The patient does not feel also the pain. But somebody which hand is not Siddha, when that person does it, it creates a lot of problems. Sometimes the two holes are made and bleeding takes place. All this happens because of absence of Siddhi. So Krishna is saying, I will share you that knowledge which the Munis used for, and by which they reached what was considered beyond the level of perfection. Look at athletes. Athletes also breach mortal boundaries. Every time they are trying to raise themselves. So what is it that they did is what Krishna is saying, I will share. He goes on, Idam jnanam upashritya mama sadharmya magataha sargepi nopajayante pralayena vyathanti cha. By taking shelter in this knowledge, they have obtained the highest wisdom, which in my oneness can be attained. No more are they born in the cycle of destruction and creation, nor are they agitated or confused by the universal extinction. So, Pralaya is also not going to disturb such a person who has taken shelter in this knowledge and has taken shelter in the divine, is what Krishna is saying. Because these ones, they got the highest wisdom. Some realization came to them that brought a sea of calmness inside of them, which did not disturb them. They are not worried about this. They have learned something. Some wisdom has entered into them. Mama yonir mahat brahma tasmin garbham dadamyaham sambhava sarva bhutanam tato bhavati bharata. O Arjuna, the worldly creation is my womb vast, within which the seed of life I infuse and cast, from which arise the beings of the mortal realm. For all the living creatures, I am the Creator Supreme. He says this full, the Hiranya Garbha from which everything originated, is only saying this is also a Garbha for the divine's manifestation. There is a continuous manifestation taking place. Sri Aurobindo said, man is but an evolving God. We are also evolving towards that status only. And here in this Srishti, I have infused my seed. My seed has been cast, and from that seed only all these life forms are born, is what Krishna is saying. Sarva yoneshu kaunteya murtayaha sambhavanti yaha tasam brahma mahadyonir raham bija pradapita. For all the wombs in which the living are generated, O Arjuna, I am the womb wherein they are created. And all the life forms on earth I have fathered. From my seed, all their life's energies they have gathered. So again, we saw Arjuna saying, Mata, Dhata, Pitamha, you are the Mata, you are the Dhata, you are the Param Dham. So Arjuna was realizing that when he saw the Vishwarupa in its full strength and magnificence, he could understand the power of the divine. And here also we see Krishna saying that all the wombs, they are receiving their energies from me only. I am the one, I am the father of all, is what he says. It is my seed that has entered into this Srishti, and that seed is responsible for life. Let us see the fifth one. Sattvam rajastama iti gunaha prakriti sambhavaha nibadnanti mahabaho dehe dehinam avyayam. Rajas, Tamas and Sattva are the qualities procreated, threefold in nature. They have been created. O Arjuna, the immutable self is by them bound, governing the body and consciousness. They are found. So now the three are being introduced to us properly. Rajas, Tamas and Sattva, these are called gunas. These are qualities, these are like attributes on the outside. One is Rajas, one is Tamas, and the third is Sattva. All have been created by whom? All have been created by Prakriti. So I think to look at it in a modern perspective, if we look at it, we have, anybody can name any three operating systems? Yes, any operating systems that we use in our devices, in computers? Yes, Rakesh ji.
Microsoft iOS and
Ha. Okay.
the Windows.
Okay, yes, is it not? So most common we see Microsoft is there is Mac also is there, and then probably the Linux, which is again open source. So basically there are three only.
Linux.
Yes, Vasudevanji. But if you look at these operating systems, you see any outer hardware has the same software, is it not? For operating either one of the three, you go and you see mostly you will find there will be of course some more available, but we are just for the purpose of example. So one of these software is present inside all. So something like that, these three gunas are functioning. The software, all three softwares are installed by the same engineer, that is Prakriti. Prakriti has installed Rajas, Prakriti has installed Tamas, Prakriti has installed Sattva. But what is this doing? The immutable self is by them bound, governing the body and consciousness, it is found. So what is happening? That Supreme Atman, that Paramatman, or what we can say, that Jivatman inside, which is an ansha of the Supreme. We have been told, Nainam Chinnati Shastrani, Nainam Dahati Pavakaha, cannot be burnt, cannot be cut, winds cannot dry it, waters cannot wet it. So powerful it is, and yet this is being bound, by Prakriti's three gunas. This immutable, immaculate, perfect Supreme Self is governing the body, governing the consciousness. That is what is happening, is what Krishna is saying. It is like consciously, this is the sacrifice which we saw Adi Yagna in the beginning. What was the sacrifice made? This is the sacrifice. Maruti is saying, tie me, I will go and meet Ravana, I will not fight. As in the Ramayana. He allows himself to be bound. The Maharudra cannot be bound by any force. But he has a plan, so he allows that to happen. Something like that, this Paramatman also is allowing the Jivatman to be bound by these forces of Prakriti, Rajas, Tamas and Sattva. They are governing our body, they are governing our consciousness. So our physical also, our mental also is being, physical, mental, emotional, whichever being you look at, all are being governed by these three, Rajas, Tamas and Sattva. Our operating software is manufactured by the divine only. So let us see. Now Krishna is going to describe them. Tatra sattvam nirmalatvat prakashakam anamayam sukha sangena badhnati jnana sangena chanagha. Sattva is the quality that reflects in serenity, illumined by virtue and an immaculate purity. This quality produces in man no disease or affliction. O Arjuna, it expresses through happiness and knowledge is fascination. So Sattva is that quality which is in serenity, which is in peace. It is something which is thriving in the purity of the individual. It is that virtue is there inside of the individual by default. that person is having that quality of peacefulness, and Krishna is saying this does not produce any disease or affliction in the individual, and it expresses through happiness, through ananda, and fascination for receiving knowledge, for learning and growing. That is the tendency of sattva. Now my question is, how can a quality or a quality produce disease or prolong life? Anybody? Krishna is saying this does not produce disease or affliction. Can being peaceful prolong our life? How? Somebody who is peaceful, will that person have anxiety, panic attacks? Will that person have hypertension?
It's more about the person will be more conscious and try to not get swayed in the situation.
Will not get swayed in the situation. So, okay, yes, the life direction also. But even looking at it only on the, what we can say, gross physical level also, a patient goes with hypertension, doctor gives medicine, and then what does he say after that while giving the medicine? Tension lene ka nahi. Yes, is it not? He says that only because your mind, if you are going to continuously work on that way, they're going to affect your body as well. So this nature of sattva inside of a person, that person is prone to getting happy, prone to learning new, and what is not known is not frustrating that individual. The person is not trying to control everything within the limits of the mind. As a result, the person is peaceful. Such a person also has a prolonged life also, and this person is having serenity and quietude.
Like if we take the example of kids and grown-ups.
Ha.
So kids are like always happy, they don't bother about things. So, and for adults, it is like they always have so much stress, yet we are so much into what we everything.
Yes, because
So much bound that the worldly things, that we see that the difference.
yes, yes. Sometimes probably that is why they say child is the father of man. We need to learn certain things from children as well. I remember I had fights with my friends when we were young, and as adults also we have. But the problem with when we were young, it was all okay. The fight would get over the moment we went to sleep. Next day it would be a new start. But the adults means it goes on in the head. It keeps replaying again and again. It keeps on extending. So probably that's the state of mind which is disturbing the shanti on the inside. But if you are cultivating sattvic nature inside, shanti is also going to be ours only.
For elders, the responsibility is not.
Yes.
Kids don't have responsibilities.
Yes. But then there are some adults who bear the responsibilities without getting tensed also. Is it not, Gayatri ji?
Yeah, it is very difficult.
But difficult, yes. But if we can do that, well, Krishna says we are having a very happy life ahead. Yes, Gayatri ji. So then this is sattva. This is the sattva nature. It seeks knowledge. It gets satisfaction in learning new, and it is expressing through happiness. Santushtaha satatam yogi is what we were told. Well, they are always sattvic only. Yogis are in that state. Let us go on. Rajo ragatmakam vidhi trushna sanga samudbhavam tanne badhnati kaunteya karma sangena dehinam. Rajas is that which ignites in one a passionate fire, a strong feeling of liking, longing and desire. O Arjuna, it is born out of a passion, out of a position for things. Through attachments to works, it binds the self in all beings. So what is Rajas? Rajas is that which is creating that fire of passion inside of an individual. Strong feeling of liking, strong feeling of desire. It is born out of a position of things. I need to gather, I need to accumulate, I need to control. Through attachments to works, it binds the self in all beings. So this is Rajas, the force of passion. Sometimes if you ask a sattvic person, what would you prefer? Would you like tea or coffee? Here, tea or coffee, the person would reply, it's alright, whatever you give. Or he'll say, okay, maybe I prefer tea, or it's something like that. But you go to the Rajasic person and you say, no, I want only coffee, or I want only tea, and that tea also has to be made specifically like this only. Now, of course, I'm not saying people having preferences are Rajasic, all of them. Some people have their tendencies, that is all right, that is all fine. But very strong, if that is not there, it is not acceptable. Or sometimes position, this person is my friend, my son, my daughter, they have to listen by my wish. or they must be in my control, they must do a particular way, because their extra possessiveness comes in. That is again rajas. So it's probably what we can say, very strong liking, very strong desires. Same way aversions also come very strongly. This is it. It brings an attachment to works, and it binds the self through this attachment. The first one we saw, sattva, it is bound by ananda. This one is bound by this kind of attachment to works. Now my question is rajas good or is rajas bad?
Rajas good for good cause is good.
Okay, that's very nicely said, Gayatri ji. It is, we cannot say some soldier is working, he's like, no, don't have rajasic force, go quietly, say, shake hands with your enemy. No, there he has to feel that, he has to have that Kshatriya blood. But again, we don't want a rajasic in charge of an entire commanding unit, because there are so many people and this person is having uncontrolled passion. If he is going to not, he is just going to use his passion as the driving force and not his intellectual wisdom also. It is going to result in more casualties. So somewhere it is a helper, it is a bar. Like the mother has talked about ego. Ego is a helper, ego is a bar. In your sadhana also, it can help you to some extent to go ahead. Best example was Ravana only. Ahankar of he wanted to realize Shiva. That allowed him to rise in his bhakti. But somewhere what happened is there was a time he should have let his bhakti take over and let his ahankar go. That did not happen. That is where we saw what happened to Ravana. Look at the fall of that great Dashavakra, they called him. 10 heads means what? 10, he had the 10 shastras also inside of his head. Even now Tandav Stotra is repeated and respected by greatest Pandits. Look at the rhythm, look at the meaning, how both rhythm and meaning have been combined. Jata Atavi, Galat Jwala, each of it comes with such a rhythm that anybody tries to memorize it. If we all also try, you miss a word and you lose the rhythm. And this is supposed to be extempore composition of a great Pandit. Look at that height of the individual. But this same one goes and he says, Shiva is not giving me audience, I will now lift Kailash. I will lift the Kailash only. His bhakta has come, how dare he not visit me? He should get up now from his trance. So this is where rajas is good to some extent, but after a while, Sri Aurobindo has also given a beautiful statement where what do we need? Well, we need the might of the Titan, the strength of the Asura and the gunas of the Deva. If we can have both, what brilliant instruments can be born. It was the prayer to Durga Ma. It was like Asurasya Udyamam Shakti De. Give me that Shakti of the Asura and the intellect of the Deva. So here, the Rajasic force is useful only as long as somebody else is not controlling it. Should be controlled by the spirit on the inside, not by some aspect on the outside. Then comes Tamas. Tasmat tva ajnanajam vidhi mohanam sarvadehinam ramada lasya nidrabhihi tannibadhnati bharata. But tamas is the quality that creates a delusion and traps all beings by ignorance's illusion. O Arjuna, the mortals are by it confounded. In laxity, laziness and sleep it is founded. So this is a danger, tamas. If you see, yes, rajas has its danger, but tamas has the greatest danger because it is creating a delusion. It's trapping a person in delusion, in the illusion of ignorance. Maya is functioning so strongly and the person cannot see it. And the person is always perennially confused because of it. And the person prefers to be lazy, not take part in the action, or even get into sleep and just completely withdraw from actions. If we see, it is why is it a biggest trap? It is because imagine a person being caged and not knowing that the person is in a cage. Why will such a person try to escape? Never. The person has not realized. It's like you feel you are free completely, but actually you are in a cage. How will you ever understand and come out? So that is the thing. That is what tamas is. It creates a delusion. It is in laziness. It is founded in that only. But again, what is tamas? Maybe the great Shanti of Shiva, Shiva's quietude, has descended into the Srishti, and then that is where it has gone into a state of tamas. Means probably in tamas slowly, if you can go out, where there are states of Jagruti, there is Sushupti, then higher stages can also be got. But for the awakened individual, so probably Tamas, when it is a descent of the Shiva's consciousness into Prakriti, and then Prakriti is one manifestation where sometimes, if you see, rest is required. Rest is required, but when it is not controlled, then that's a problem. This is what Tamas is. The biggest danger of Tamas is the Maya, which creates the illusion, which it traps an individual. Let us go on further. Sattvam sukhe sanjayati rajah karmani bharata jnanamrutya tu tamaha pramade sanjayatyuta. By happiness, the nature sattva is bound, and by desires and actions, rajas is ensnared found. O Arjuna, but tamas is attached to negligence, and its cloak of ignorance cages the intelligence. So buddhi bhrashta is what happens there. We had krodhat bhavati sammoha. Means, how is it? Krodha is resulting in uncontrolled emotions. Uncontrolled emotions are spreading a kind of confusion. In that smriti bhransha is also happening. Memory is getting lost, and then ultimately the individual is destroyed, because somewhere anger took control. Then anger led to confusion inside. Uncontrolled emotions have led to loss of even smriti, and all complete ignorance is descended into the individual, and finally that has destroyed the individual completely. That's what is happening. But interestingly, Krishna is saying sattvic nature is also bound by happiness. Sattva has its limitation, rajas also has its limitation, tamas also. All three are having its limitation. So if you look at it, sattva does look to be the best, but Krishna is saying there is still something which is beyond this as well, because sattva also has its limitation. Imagine there was a time in India when some invaders were attacking, and some of these seekers who were very sattvic, they said Brahma will take care, or Paramatman will take care. The invaders cannot do anything. There was a story like this. They allowed the invaders to attack, thinking nothing will happen because we are on this high platform. Where was the rajas inside of them which, come on, defend, stand up like Arjuna, pick up your Gandiva and fight, do not allow these invaders to enter. So what happened then? Well, somewhere sattva has its own limitation as well. So like rajas, sattva is also having some limitation, and tamas, well, it's having on so many limitations, it's very difficult to find something good in tamas. Let us see further. Rajas tamas cha bhibhuya sattvam bhavati bharata raja sattvam tamaschaiva tamah sattvam rajas tatha. Oh Arjuna, when the sattva qualities of nature lead overpowered, the rajas and tamas components recede. So what happens when Raja enters into the group? All the other people move aside, is it not? The Maharaja is appearing. It is something like that. When inside of the individual, sattvic nature is now rising, and automatically tamas and rajas move aside. They are going to recede inside of the individual. That is why they say get into the habit of cultivating sattvic nature. And then it's fun when somebody cultivates a sattvic nature, then even a person who is known to be cranky and angry, that person becomes very quiet. People come and try to test that person, and still he just smiles, and everybody is surprised, including that individual also, that person is not getting irritated. Why? Because the sattvic nature has now risen, and it is this state which is very important. This is why it needs to be cultivated, because then rajas and tamas go behind, is what Krishna is saying. Rajas rises when sattva and tamas are suppressed, but rajas is very powerful and forceful, so he does not allow. So rajas presses sattva also, rajas presses tamas also, and then rajas rises. Whenever rajas is rising, these forces are being overpowered, the forces of sattva and tamas. Tamas grows when rajas and sattva are depressed. So it's like all three are there inside of the individual, they are working in a continuous tandem only. One rises, other two reduce. So it is always best if you allow sattvic nature to rise. If it rises, you don't have to worry about suppressing at all, because automatically other two will go behind. But in the case of rajas is only going to suppress the other two and take control. So that is rajasic nature. But tamas is many times when we become depressed, when we become sad, that time Tamas just rises suddenly. I don't see meaning. I don't see any reason. I don't see rhyme for reason for anything that I'm doing. These questions start coming, and the person loses the sattvic aspect also inside of the individual, and also what is the rajasic aspect also. Suddenly, the will to do, the fire of Agni is only now some. It's like doused only inside of that individual because Tamas is there. One participant, she was a BAMS Vaidya. She had a chance to work with, as part of her program course, she had to work with a psychologist, a psychiatrist in a hospital. And she said, I actually watched these three natures inside of a person who had come. A patient had been admitted. That person wanted to end life. And the first reaction was that person was tamasic only. Over so many periods, that patient was staying at the hospital and she had a good chance of looking. She said that patient was only tamasic, not expressing anything, talking. What doctors were saying also, no interest or anything. So that was just in a state of tamas. We were not understanding also what's going to happen. For some days, they were wondering what needs to be done in the treatment as well. Next came the cranky nature inside of the person. He started fighting with the doctor also. He started fighting with the nurses also. All of them, he was getting irritated and he started fighting, arguing. You people are doing like this. You have ruined. Your system is this. That you are doing like this. You are only responsible for my problems. But a senior doctor advised her, it is a good sign, because that doctor knew that this is at least better than what was there before. And then she says, after a while, that person had brilliant philosophical discussions with her. She said, very insightful discussion. Same person is having. Cranky nature is also gone. The tamasic nature is also gone. Now this person has got into what we can. She said, it was. I saw the moment. She said she felt that it was a moment from tamas to rajas and rajas to sattva. And when sattva was there and the doctors were sure, they said, now is the time for discharge. You need not worry. You can now go and you are free to go. So this is how these three govern, and one rises, other two get suppressed. So we must choose. We cannot allow a situation or some random occurrence to choose what rises inside of us. We need to choose that. Probably that is what sadhana is. Yes, Rakiji wants to add something.
Yeah. So basically, for existence, all three needs to be present
Yes,
and
yes,
in balance.
yes,
When
and balance.
one goes out of balance, there is a problem.
There is a
Now,
problem.
yeah. So now the example that you just stated
Hmm.
of that person,
Yeah.
the doctor saw all three
Yes.
qualities. Um, I mean, we say that we should cultivate sattva qualities.
Yes.
But at the same time, the example that you just quoted, it's like, that person found that environment.
Hmm.
The environment facilitated
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
cultivation of rajas and then sattvic qualities in him, and that is how he was able to overcome.
The environment did not facilitate rajas qualities. They wanted sattvic only. For the doctors, they wanted only that.
So it's like, moving a step
Yes, ahead.
yeah. So what I wanted to just say was, I mean,
Hmm.
it's easier said that cultivate sattva qualities, but when the environment is
Conducive, then it is
not
easy.
conducive,
How do you do it?
then it is very, very difficult
Ha
to
ha.
actually
Yes, yes, yes.
cultivate
Yes, yes.
that.
Yes,
I
yes.
mean, to be calm, to be in that sattva nature is very, very difficult.
Yes,
I mean,
yes.
even though
That is why it needs to
that,
be done. That is why it needs to be done. That is the challenge. Is it not, Rakiji?
yes,
Because you see, if,
Somebody's losing the patience
yeah.
very quietly.
yeah,
At one point you lose it.
I remember when I was in college. Yes, when I was in college, I was pretty disturbed out of certain things I wanted to understand, and I got a beautiful book from a friend, Awakening the Mind by Dalai Lama. That was all that was required. I took it to college, and that was the biggest mistake I did. So one day I took it to college, and I opened that book. Everybody sees he is becoming Buddhist now. He is not going to get angry with you, and all started jumping at me and trying to provoke and trigger me. And this person will not get angry. This person will not get angry, and you are not allowed to get angry, and you are not allowed to react. You are now trying to become like this. The state of mind is the sattva was trying to be. I did not know about the gunas that well that time. So basically, I wanted to cultivate sattvic nature. But the atmosphere is so bad. But I think Rakiji, sometimes that is worth, that challenge is worth, because see, it is very good. It is like very rare, as Krishna has told, that in a home or to find a household where the atmosphere is itself conducive. It is a very privileged atmosphere. Very rare it is for an individual to be born in such an atmosphere. But we have seen great yogis born in absolutely contrasting atmosphere, and this is not just now, from ancient times also. Any atmosphere also, it is sometimes, it is like, you see, in the nursery also, plant grows outside the nursery also. It does not mean it will grow in nursery only. And sometimes the plants that grow out of the nursery grow stronger, and they are sturdier also, because they have risen because of the atmospheric shocks. The one in the nursery looks beautiful, but the moment it is taken outside of the nursery, then that the plant's leaves wither and all of it. So yes, Rakiji, yes,
Yeah,
atmosphere has a
I
role.
agree. I agree.
Yes.
And I don't want to sound pessimist,
Hmm.
though, even though I also believe in, having that
Okay.
sattva quality is more than the rajas and the tamas. Um, but, uh, it's like sometimes you are pressed so much, and even though when you're trying to do good, uh, it's not that you are expecting something good only, but then uh, things don't
They don't, it is not
go
sufficient, is it
in
not?
the
Sattva does not
yeah.
feel sufficient, is it not? It feels limited in some places, some situations, is it not, Rakheji? Yes, that is what Krishna is also saying.
Absolutely.
That is
Sattva
limited.
is limited only.
Yes, that is why Sattva is not ultimate also. There is something which is ultimate. Krishna has not introduced it. Let us see what it is, Rakiji. Yes, but that's a good observation also, because many times Sattva is attractive and it is nice. But then, is it enough? Or there is something higher than that also, and that's what Krishna is going to share to us. There is something beyond that.
Gunatit.
Yeah, we'll go to that. Yes, yes. Absolutely, you have rightly said that. Yes, yes. Hariom, Hariom. We'll just.
Anshuji,
Yeah, okay, sorry, I muted Srinivas ji by mistake. Please unmute ji. Yes, Srinivas ji.
uh, can I ask a question?
All right, okay.
Yeah, can we compare these Rajas, Tamas, and Sattva with energy?
Uh, okay. How so?
Energy cannot be destroyed; it can be just transformed.
Okay, lovely, lovely. Yes, yes, yes. So the impulse inside, a Rajasic impulse can be transformed into a Sattvic impulse also. Lovely, right example also. Sometimes children, no, when parents see they have extra energy, they like already born with an awakened Kundalini. Some children are like that. Now they are going to do mischief. They are going to do breaking of things. So what to do? What to do? Parents give them drums. So take all your energy out. Take that energy out into drumming, and that's where they learn concentration. That's where they learn. They pick up their skills also. I remember the most mischievous person in my class who would not do anything. He was an excellent drummer. Excellent drummer. Now he is in the music industry. He's gone into that direction only. So it has got channeled. So yes, rightly said, Srinivasi. We have to just, these are impulses. They have to be channeled. So let us just go a little bit ahead and we'll see. So, but it has been rightly identified that yes, sattva also has some limitations. It is good. Let us see why is it good, and how do we transcend the limitations as well. Sir,
Yes, Santosh.
all right, Dipti ji. Ji.
Let me add in. As Rakhi was mentioning about the environment, it is really, really difficult. But I just want to quote one person from my family. I mean, amongst the whole lot, it was by my bua. So in her house, the environment was not at all conducive, like absolutely not. But I don't, I mean, we were all in awe that how she would always control and she would always be smiling, and we never saw her. I mean, she would do her meditation, everything. But in that, I mean, if there would have been any other person, that person would have literally broken. But I mean, we have always seen that. So whenever in fact, in our own family, whenever we are all like feeling low, we tell each other about her, how she used to this. So it gives an inspiration. So I've
Yes.
seen that one person in the family because I was
Yes. Yes.
really, really good
Ji.
at
Ji.
gathering that energy just to direct in a positive direction.
Yes.
So
Yes,
it can
Dipti
take
ji.
any kind of thing.
No, sometimes yes, yes, Deepti ji, absolutely. So the atmosphere has a role, but not everything. Sometimes Hiranyakashipu is required for the avatar to come. So for that reason, the atmosphere is sometimes, it's all right. It is all right if the atmosphere is not
Also,
conducive.
I've heard that many yogis during
Ji.
summer they sit near fire and meditate.
Ha ha ha.
That way the sadhanas that they are not
Yes.
connected with
Yes.
which has all certain
Yes, yes. Yes, yes. Hatha Yoga, Upasana, people do different ones. Yes, yes.
so this concept can be, if your environment is bad, this is also an opportunity for you to
Yes.
absorb what.
Yes, yes. Absolutely.
It's not for us, it's not for us.
No, no, no. Why not for us? We're also, if you see, sir, for footballers also, one footballer was known to take bath with ice so that his stamina increases. And why I would sleep in conditioned chambers. But anyway, let us know. We will go ahead. Rightly said. Yes, yes.
Just start
All
with
right.
ordinary water things.
All right. Maybe, but maybe Krishna is saying we are also extraordinary, leading ordinary lives, extraordinary individuals. That is what Krishna is saying. Anyway, let us get back to the Adhyay. We will continue. Yes, please. So, सर्वद्वारेषु देहेऽस्मिन् प्रकाश उपजायते ज्ञानं यदा तदा विद्यात् विवृद्धं सत्त्वमित्युत. When the light barges open all the doors of the being, its luminous knowledge brings forth the awakening, that moment of sakshatkar. All the dwaras are flooded with light, is what Krishna is saying. Know that whenever there is such an activation, the quality of sattva is leading in domination. So, this is why the yogis want to cultivate sattva also. It is in sattvic state only sakshatkar can come very easily, because that is where the entire brilliant light is going to come, and that individual's anka is also elsewhere. There is a vacuum inside for the manifesting of the divine spirit. So, this state of sattva is ideal for all realizations. So, understand in sattvic state only the activation can take place. The 12th shloka. Lobha pravritirarambha karmana mashamaha spruha rajasyetani jayante vivruddhe bharatarshava. When the rajas quality is in an increasing state, Arjuna, the following tendencies begin to escalate: greed and a restless desire to initiate action, and the being seeks fruits with an impulsive passion. So this is the problem of rajas. This is definitely a problem. Sattva, if it's having what we can say a few limitations, rajas has so many more limitations, because when rajas is increasing, unknown to that person, inside of the person, these tendencies of greed, a desire to initiate action. I am doing this, I want to start, I want to begin. Seeking fruits. No, not ma phaleshu kadachanam, phala eva aham ichhami. I want fruits only is the feeling inside of that person. He is doing everything with the expectation of fruits and impulsively, driven by impulses. All impulsive decisions are mostly wrong ones only. It is very rare. If the state of mind is sattvic, then you are going to get the right impulse. Otherwise, in rajasic state, you are going to just go in the wrong direction. That is what is the problem of rajas. What about tamas? Aprakasho pravritischa pramado moha eva cha tamasyetani jayante vivruddhe kuru nandana. Darkness, delusion, and an ignorant negligence, and a futile indulgence in actions of impotence. O Arjuna, whenever tamas is on the rise, all these nature's deformities in the being arise. So this is the vikara inside of the individual. Darkness, the state of darkness inside. Darkness referring to ignorance. Delusion. Delusion. The person is in a state of complete delusion. What must be done, what must not be done. There is no clarity at all. It is quite the opposite in that individual. And an ignorant negligence. A person is negligent in the actions. Engaging in futile actions, impotent actions. Meaning, where resources have to be used, there the person does not use resources. Where resources does not have to be, if you imagine a person who is HR manager, he has to allocate certain resources for a particular marketing team. This marketing team does not need more than a few lakhs. This person says, here, take 20 lakhs to this team, which is not required. And then there is another which badly needs for bringing that plan, whatever the plan of the organization is. This much money is there. He says, no, I cannot give you this. I'll give you 4 lakhs. Why? This is tamasic thought. There is no logic. There is nothing. There is no logic in it. It is just the person is in a delusion who is doing those actions. It's like pouring water in a desert. Water is so scarce in a desert. What will you do? Can you say, I want to build a swimming pool in the desert? It is something like that. When you are, it is not required. That is not something which needs to be done. But that is tamas to you. That is what tamas does. And this is the deformity. Krishna is not saying ignorance is bliss. Ignorance is a vikar, is what Krishna is saying. Tamas is Ignorance, tamas is the vikar. We do not consider ignorance as bliss. If our doctor is ignorant, we will get so angry. Oh, how can the doctor make a mistake? Doctor is God. Doctor should not make mistakes. That is our state of mind. But when it comes to our own nature, it's all right. It's all right. We are human. We make mistakes. We hide behind this. We are only human dialogue. But this is exactly what tamas does. Tamas is allowing ignorance to go in, and nowhere is ignorance permitted. Not in sadhana, nor do we want ignorance in our lives. Because maybe it may be a pseudo bliss for a moment where you are not knowing what is happening because of ignorance. But what is going to happen when the karma phala starts manifesting? Then it's a big problem. Something like that. Yada sattve pravruddhe tu pralayam. Yes, Ji.
Ignorance of not required for us.
Yes, yes.
I need not know. Doing sadhana, I need not know what is black holes are made of.
Yes. Tamaso ma jyotirgamaya, it is said. That is also tamas. Only from tamas we want to go to light. But his blackness is also a type of ignorance. But again,
What's going on in Ukraine also.
yes, because at the moment, our kshetra, because we are in our kshetra, for me to work in my kshetra or on my kshetra, I will need to center myself onto that. Maybe I may learn something from elsewhere if I have to, but I cannot lose the touch with my kshetra, and that is probably what is. Yes. Ji. Not necessarily a boon, but if you do not understand if you do not understand, yeah.
This is what you call anxieties and fears.
Yes. So better would be.
Even if somebody may be unnecessarily upset, you cannot do.
Yes, but in sadhana he will have to also realize that what is happening there is also a part of what was happening in the world from the beginning. This is a human nature and human cycle which will keep going on. It may help the person in sadhana also to come to terms with it. This is the humanity. This is why humanity needs to be transformed, because if man remains man only, these kind of wars will keep going on. Only when man becomes divine, we will have the Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. So for that reason, means it is sometimes a yogi meditating in one place can bring about a transformation in else place also by raising the sadhana. The mother had told, if at all the French Revolution took place, it was because there was a man on Indian snows dreaming of liberty, equality and fraternity. This thought from one person receives elsewhere. In Ukraine also we have seen some soldier chanting Hare Rama, Hare Krishna. If you have seen the video, he is saying he is Arjuna. He is fighting for a dharma yuddha, he is fighting for a cause. Yes, Vasudevanji. So yes, whatever it is, somewhere we'll have to, because it is not, nowhere is Gita, at least because we have been conditioned from our childhood. Ignorance is bliss. We have been told it is a good thing. But somewhere realization is real bliss. Realization is ananda. That is what we should seek. Let us just continue. Yada sattve pravruddhe tu pralayam yati deha bhrut tadottama vidam lokan amalan pratipadyate. At the final moments, if sattva's nature is in abundance, during the period of death, dissolution and ascendance, the being reaches the realm that is most fortunate, where dwell the highest knowledgeable souls immaculate. So if the nature is sattvic of that person in the last state, he is going to go ahead. 8th adhyaya, it just looks like it's being repeated. Krishna has told, a yogi is the one who is not at all disturbed even by the last moment. In Prayan Kala also he is the same and peaceful and quiet. So this is exactly what Krishna is saying. That person, he reaches that highest realm. He reaches that highest state. What about Rajas? Rajasi pralayam gatva karma sangeshu jayate tatha pralinas tamasi mudhayonishu jayate. If Rajas abounds when the embodied being is passing away, the soul is born in the womb that seeks desires way. And if Tamas is the dying soul's nature predominant, the being is born in the low womb of being ignorant. So Krishna is saying, if Rajas is there in the last moment, the journey is going to continue Rajasic only. Next yoni is also going to have a Rajasic state only. But what about Tamas? When Tamas is the predominant nature, well, the person is born in that nature only. So whatever nature we are carrying in the last moment, that is going to be carried forward. Sattva, Rajas or Tamas. Let us just go on further. Karmanaha sukrutasyahu satvikam nirmalam phalam rajasastu phalam dukkham ajnanam tamasaha phalam. When the works are performed in sattva's light, the fruits are pure as the mode of action is right. And works done in Rajasa state bring only pain, but ignorance is results of Tamas's actions vain. So when a work is done in Sattva's light, the perfect is pure because the way of doing is right. Normally, a Sattvic person, when he does the work, it is very clear. Even folding of sheets, you can identify a person's nature by the way they fold their sheets or how a person walks or conducts themselves. Rajasic person will do it at the state of stamp of Rajas is there. Sattva person will do as if he is doing the most important work of life also, even if it's a small significant work, he wants to do it perfectly because that is the way of the Sattvic person. Tamasic person is, why did I ask this person to fold the bed sheet is the question that comes to us when we see a Tamas person work, because this is the nature. This is what happens. Tamas's actions mostly go in waste is what Krishna is saying. So nowhere are we actually identifying great benefits. We are seeing more drawbacks of tamasic nature only. As long as it is in sleep, it is fine. When tamas brings nidra, that is all right. But when tamas takes us away from complete action, because sharir needs rest, that is different. But when you are now going away from the main work, then it's of no use. Karma is also going to get lost. So that is what is most important. Sattvat sanjayate jnanam rajaso lobha evacha pramada mohau tamaso bhavate jnana mevacha. From sattva alone true gnosis comes, while with rajas the being only greedy becomes. But tamas brings forth ignorance's illusion. The negligent being dwells in a state of delusion. So sattva is going to bring good results, it's going to give you that realization. But rajas is going to make you greedy. And tamas is only, so no matter what we wish, that is why they said you don't have to worry about cultivating rajas inside. It is there and it is going to make us greedy because of ahankar inside of us. By default we may feel like being rajasic only. So sattva has to be cultivated, rajas has to be checked, and tamas has to be ignored or removed or eliminated from this all parts of that individual. Urdhvam gachanti sattvastha madhye tishtanti rajasaha Jaganya gunavruttistha adho gachanti tamasaha. The embodied one in sattva upwards ascends. So the person in sattvic state has the door open to rise higher. That is the sattvic nature. Those in rajas remain in the middle but do not descend. So it's like a zero-sum game. You don't go front also, you don't go back also. You are going to remain there. So rajasic force will help you go ahead. Karma will go ahead. But you will be trapped in karma bandhana also. So you are going to bear the consequence of karma bandhana as well. But at least some movement is there and you are there, plus and minus. But tamas is actually a backward movement is what Krishna is saying. While the being of tamas is inertial. Alright, I'll just complete this. I'll just cut this one line and then. While the being of tamas is inertial negligence, in soul's journey only sink in further decadence. So it's going to, tamas is entering instead of in us or somebody else. We need to be careful because it's going to harm us only ultimately. This is there in the Upanishad also. Andaha tamaha pravishanti yeke cha atmano janaha. Those who hurt themselves, they go into further darkness. Yes, please, Dipti ji.
I just wanted to say that can we say that sattva needs us to open our karma yogi path?
With clarity, yes. Selfless actions are possible in a sattvic state, not in a rajasic state. Yes.
But how do we deal with, like, see, if suppose I want to lead a particular life in a sattvic way and I want to raise my consciousness, right? But as we discussed earlier also, that there will be, like, let's say,
You'll have to rise above sattva. You'll have to rise even above sattva. That Krishna has not yet revealed. He is going to tell it to us. Dipti ji.
How do we deal with people?
That's
the question.
Yes, regarding dealing people will come in one more chapter called Deva and Asuri. That is the next chapter. Because gunas of devas are also around us, the gunas of asuras are also around us. How do we deal? Krishna has very nicely told in the start only, na buddhi bhedam. Your job is not to create a divide in the mind of another person. You are going to agitate a person if you try to create. You are having selfless thoughts. You are talking to a selfish person. you go and start talking about selfless thoughts to that person, that's going to disturb and agitate that person. So don't create that agitation. But how to deal, that is going to be explained. Why Gita is called a manual of life, it was very evident. We'll just see that. But how does one rise? How
Apply to kids also, like what we are talking. We are talking like from, I mean, the thought and all from the grown-up perspective. And of course, the kids are also human, right? They also
we are actually Deepti ji, because of kids only we have adults classes here in our trust. We start this project is only for children, and last 2 years because children started practicing Rajas, Tamas, Sattva in their home, they started saying, mother, I don't want Rajasic food, mother, I am like this, I want this. That parents who had not studied the Gita approached our trust and said, you please start for the adults as well. And so we started it, but where it is very much applicable for all, Deepti ji. It is very much, it is definitely. So let's go to the next 19th one. Nanyam gunebhyah kartaram yada drushtanu pashyati gunebhyascha param vetti madbhavam sodigacchati. When the divine being attains the realization of nature's threefold modular operation and of the Supreme who is beyond nature, who is beyond these three gunas, towards me he turns and attains my stature. This is what Krishna is saying. You can go and reach that stature also of the divine. Tukaram had told that only. I went to see God, I didn't know when I became one. When I became one with God. It's like Bete Vayas Gelo and Ho in it hello. I became God only is what his realization. It's not Ahankar. He was continuously in sadhana, continuously cultivating sattvic guna inside of him. How much resistance he faced. It was unbelievable, the resistance that he faced. But he used that resistance only as a fuel, like Ahuti into that great Jnana-Agni which was burning. Every time resistance came, there was like Agneya Swaha, Agneya Idan Namam, and the fire kept growing. So much that later on, he became the great Tukaram. Abhanga, his words are called Abhanga, meaning that which are like Akshara only, which cannot be destroyed. One simple couplets, they have such great meaning. Each of them have so much. It is like sometimes there's one more. Tuka mane uge raha jeje hoil tete pa, means stand quietly, watch what's happening. It is simple one, but its real meaning, those who understand from that level can actually implement it in life as well. So let us see further. We'll go and we'll stop at the next shloka. Krishna is going to be asked by a question. Is going to be asked by Arjuna one question, which is very much relevant to us also. What is this? How do we go behind? How do we go beyond all these three gunas? What are the limitations? What is that state? Because now Krishna has said somebody who has attained that realization, who has understood the three gunas, has learned to go beyond the three gunas, becomes one with me is what Krishna says. And next one, Gunanetan atitya trindehi deha samudbhavan janma mrityu jara dukkhair Vimokto Mrutam Ashnute. So Amrutam Ashnute is what Krishna is saying. That person can understand the Amrutatva. Rising upwards, the embodied soul is elevated. From nature's tribal bondages, it is liberated. From birth, death, old age and disease, the sufferings mortal. The soul is freed and attains to the immortal. So that when you rise beyond these three gunas, you are going to connect with the Amrutatva is what Krishna is saying, which is beyond all of this, Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadhi, all of this. It is transcending that. So now immediately comes the question of Arjuna. We'll stop with Arjuna's question. Krishna's answer we'll see tomorrow and probably enter into the next adhyay. Arjuna uvacha Kairlingais trin gunanetan atito bhavati prabho kimacharaha katham chaitrams tatho Kimacharaha katham chaitrams trin gunan ati vartate. How does one go beyond? Trin gunan ati vartate. Please tell me, katham. Arjuna asked, what are the signs that one can see? And what are the actions of that soul free? The triple natures, how does one ascend? Oh Lord, answers to these questions, please extend. So Bhagavan Krishna is being asked by Arjuna. How does one go beyond these three gunas? What are the signs of that free soul? What are those indications? Tell me, O Krishna. Please answer it. Please answer is what he is asking. This is probably our question also. What is this state which is beyond the gunas? How does one go ahead? Well, basically, Krishna told when you are beyond these gunas, you are going to be in my consciousness. So, what is the meaning? Krishna's consciousness is going to be accessed by us if we go beyond the state of gunas. Immediately, Arjuna also wants to attain Krishna's consciousness. So, how does one go? What we can say is in this state, the remote is in our hands. It is not in the hands of the situation or life or anything, because most of the times life decides how we react. We are not acting on our own. We are actually, situation comes to us, we according to our gunas, we are functioning according to that only. Rajasic person will act Rajasic according to that situation of life. But again, that is in his hand only. It is not in, means that he has been born with that swabhava. That is a swabhava. But when you become gunatit, you can actually transcend your swabhava. For a person who is peaceful, he is always going to remain peaceful. But then, where will he get the energy to get angry, or when he has to show his energy also? Will that peaceful nature remain, or will he lose that nature? Because we have seen when Sattvic people get angry, they become more worse than Rajasic people who are angry also, and then they do something which is even, because they have gone against their nature, it disturbs them also, they get into great panic, heart also palpitation takes place, they do something, they are also not at peace. Around them people are also shocked, and still what higher will is there that has never manifested, it has only created further disturbance. So how does one go beyond the three gunas? That is what Arjuna is also interested, just like us, and this is where we stop today. Krishna is going to answer. There is a state, we will access Krishna's consciousness, that will tell us to go beyond the limitation of what Rajas is, what Tamas is, and even Sattva, maybe higher than Sattva as well. We will see that tomorrow. I'll just conclude the Shanti mantra, and if any queries are there, questions are there, most welcome. Hari Om. Sarve bhavantu sukhinah, sarve santu niramayah, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschit dukkha bhag bhavet. Hari Om Tat Sat. Krishnam Vande Jagat Gurum. Om Shanti Shanti. Yes, Hari Om. Yes, please. Any queries? Most welcome. Hari Om.
Sushrit
Ji.
Whether too much of analytical mind hinders attainment of sattva?
Actually, no. Analytical mind sometimes confuses us, because analysis is going to happen according to mind. But when we want to reach a state which is beyond the mind, so it can only help us to some extent, but we have to understand that our logic is based on our indriyas. Our indriyas are limited. What I am understanding, what I am analyzing is because of my logic, what I can understand. I am suddenly working in 1 plus 1 equal to 2. But again, this 1 plus 1 equal to 2 or 1 divided by 1 equal to 1 fails when it is 0, is it not? 0 is 0 by 0, we cannot say 0 by 0 is any number by itself gives you 1. And now what is 0 is a bigger question. Is it Shunya? Is it nothing? Or is it Purna? And then when you go to that logic of Purna, it says Purnamidam Purnamada Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Ashishyate. Means you take out 0 from 0, it will still remain 0. You add 0 to 0, it will remain 0 only. And it's called Purna, means complete. So again, it is not breaking mathematical laws, but it is breaking our logic of 0 being nothing. It's telling us 0 here, it is not Shunya, it is actually Purna. So basically, this logic of mind, we should understand it is helpful, but to some extent. Krishna has told, no, Dadami Buddhi Yogam Tam. He will give us that higher mind logic, over mental logic, supra-mental logic. We have heard of intuition. We have heard of intuition which is beyond our logic. We don't know why this thought came. It broke my logic. But I followed it because my heart was telling me, no, this must be done. I did it. And thank God I didn't listen to my logic, is what the mind tells you later on. Good thing you didn't listen to me is what the mind is only telling. Why? Because there are things which are beyond. Later on we can give the tarka and we can try to identify what happened, try to dissect it. But then what happens, it's like, they say poetry also. It's like dissecting poetry is like dissecting a frog. In the end you will have all the organs, but the frog will not be alive. Is it not? Something like that. Our logic will help us to some extent, but many times people in Jnana Shakha, they become dry. Bhakti aspect is lost. So as long as it is not lost, but we can understand, each person has their marga, they can use. Somebody who has an analytical mind can use the analytical mind to go ahead, but must recognize the limitation of the analytical mind also. Otherwise, the person, what Sri Aurobindo would call intellectual gymnastics. They go in circles. Just go, there was a word, he said, I am not here to, tomorrow you will ask, is what Sri Aurobindo had told. how many fishes are there in the Bay of Bengal, or how many crows are. It is like how many crows are there in the city. You can't expect me to answer, is what Sri Aurobindo had told Sadhak. When they were having a different expectation, because he's saying you are having a expectation which is logical for something which is beyond logic, is what. Yes, Srinivasji, analytical mind can help up to a level. There was actually one very one actually
Another thing.
Okay, yeah, all right.
Another thing I want to ask: we are born with a particular prakriti.
Yeah.
What we can say call as a
Swabhava.
pinda.
Swabhava. We can call it Swabhava.
Swabhav.
Swabhava would be ideal.
Swabhav is something which you can change. But
Pinda is one pinda only we have, Amrutasya Putra Vayam, that is our pinda. We should realize that. We have forgotten that. That is the problem. So whatever Swabhava we consider that we are like this. We equate our Swabhava.
I analyze Swabhav as a something which only you give bhav. Nobody gives bhav to it. Swabhav.
Okay, individual only gives importance to it.
that is how I define Swabhav.
Yes.
And I believe that Swabhav can be changed, but Prakriti, it is very difficult to change.
Prakriti is difficult to change. Yes, but it cannot. We'll see one more aspect. There is a very nice question of fate and free will. How much is fate's control? How much is free will? But that is in 18th Adhyay. Krishna is answering that also. 5 factors are being described. How much is in our control? How much is not in our control? How much have we carried forward? How much can we really bring about a change? If we are born with this, if I have this limitation, can I? Sometimes people are born with deficient indriyas only. What can they do? Well, I have a friend who's a journalist. She cannot see. I did not know she could not see until I became friends with her. Meaning she had an interview with me and everything over the phone. She was asking about the ambience, all these questions. I did not even realize for a minute that she was not able to see. I did not even know that, but I felt I was sad, and then she was like, "Why are you sad? What is your reason? I am already doing quite well." So that aspect is there. So what Prakriti has some doshas, it's all right. But how do we can transcend them as well? To some, what is that ability is there, but that will be a question we'll look at in depth later on. As far as the first question about analytical mind, there is a very nice thing. If we have a couple of minutes, I'll just share. Damleji had talked about. He had gone to one very senior ashram sadhak for a session, and when he was very young, this is probably 20-30 years back, maybe 20 years back. That time they were discussing about going beyond the mind. And Damleji would always be surrounded with elders. He liked, there were different mas. There was one Krishna Bain and so many other sadhaks. They are no more now. But all of them would attend the sessions together, and a great talk. They would call the person Papaji, who would give the beautiful lectures. That time we must go beyond the mind. Suddenly one person asked a doubt. How do we go beyond the mind? This I am not understanding. How do we go beyond the mind? That was the question that was asked. And the response was, by doing it. The person said only that line and went away. Means you have to do it and then you will realize it. But now the seniors, they were not understanding, and then they came to Damleji. You always joke. You always have a way of telling it through jokes. So why don't you tell? Can you not explain how do we go beyond the mind? They have said, by doing it, I have still not understood. What did you understand? You please tell, and I am sure you tell something. It will be interesting, is what they had that faith. So he said, okay, I am telling you this. Of course, this session is complete. But he said, I am telling you a movie's song. Have you heard of this movie? So they had not watched the movie, of course. So, no. And they said, there was a dialogue in the song. Goli maar bheje pe. Bheje ki sunega to marega kallu. That was a very funny song. But if you look at it, it is the mind. Our mind is having its own limitations. Our Tarka Vidya is sometimes, if you see Upanishad, one is the Vidya, another is Avidya, both are a problem. You have to go beyond Vidya and Avidya. Reconciliation of opposites. It's not a compromise. What happens when you do a compromise? Both are not happy. It is not going to go ahead. Only the opposites, even the extreme opposites, means in everywhere that reconciliation is to be brought. Then only we can go ahead, and for that also we need to go beyond the mind. So for that again we must give importance only to some extent. Analytical mind after a while is not required only. Sri Aurobindo's beautiful writings, they were called automatic writing. Means, he said, I did not write. My pen would start moving, and there people have watched it. This was even before his sadhana deep sadhana in ashram in Pondicherry, before coming to Pondicherry. Even during the freedom struggle days, the other sadhaks around, other revolutionaries around him, they would just have a joke because he would go into that state and his pen would start moving on its own. One day the pen wrote that this person is going to throw bomb on another person. And they were all having a laugh because that was not in the plan, but it was automatic writing, means some higher force was functioning and he was conscious of that. So our mind is going to be driven by our ahankar. Are we going to allow our ahankar to function, or are we going to allow the higher force? And when the higher force functions, then na kinchit api chintayet, that is the state. Not a single thought, that person is not the karta, no, person is not the doer, then only that it is like name mrityu shanka, name jati vedaha. It is like everywhere, it is anywhere, it is just going on. Mano buddhi ahankar chittani naham, na cha shrotra jive, na cha grana netre, na cha vyoma bhume, na tejo na vayu, just chidananda rupa. That state can come, when can it come? Can it come by the mind, Srinivasanji? Mano buddhi ahankar, I am not mano, I am not mana, I am not buddhi, I am not the ahankar. If you are going to use mana only, you will see with mana only, is it not? So something is there that is to be required, that is to be gained, and the best part is Krishna does it. He has said dadami buddhi yogam tam. Only we have to make ourselves available. We cannot say, Krishna, you work like this to me. My mind logic works like this. Krishna, you must come and do it according to my mental logic. He'll say, no need, I don't want to do it. It will not work in that logic. You will have to rise. So that's the problem. Many times it is better to keep that aside. It's like sometimes questions can be put in abeyance also, and they get answered when the time comes. Because if we keep holding on, we are going to hold on to our own limitation, and that is going to be our trouble, because it will be the wrestling we will be doing. We are trying to, if you see in the one adhyaya about Bhakti Yoga only, whether form or formless, the person who is strongly attached in the formless, that person will get troubled, because he is trying to understand the formless through the form only, no? So he'll have to let go, and then he will get the shara also, he will understand the akshara also, he will understand the vyakta and the avyakta also. But that should happen by growth, not by mind only, because mind is also a faculty. Mind is not everything, with limitation. Yes, Srinivas ji. Hari Om.
Hari Om.
Hari Om. Hari Om. Hari Om. Hari Om.
Hari Om.
Hari Om. Hari Om. Hari Om.
Hari Om.
Hari Om ji. Hari Om. Hari Om.
Hari Om.
Hari Om. Hari Om. Hari Om. Hari Om. Yes, ji.
When we are sattvic, when we approach a problem through sattvic character.
One second, I think Dr. Srinivasanji, can I just come to you after?
Am I audible?
Yes, I think Dr. Pushpa was asking something now. Probably I'll come to you now. Yes, Hari Om, Hari Om. I'll just come in a minute. Yes, 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 please. Dr. Pushpa ji, you were saying?
If there is a problem, a sattvic person is having some problem with some raja character fellow. When we deal with those fellows, rajas, that while dealing or while sattvic persons convince those rajas character, is it wrong? Sometimes, many times, it was understood as a in a wrong direction, like
going, it is not understood in spirit, it is going, people misinterpret it.
Misinterpreted. More than that, sattvic, they think that these sattvic fellows are what I have to do. They are coming in our way, so we can do anything for those fellows. they can't do anything like
Yes,
that. It was
yes,
misinterpreted.
misinterpreted because of
Ah,
weakness,
ah.
weakness, because this person is.
Weakness. Ah,
Got it.
it
Yes,
is
yes.
considered to be the weakness of the Sattvic fellows.
Okay, okay, yes, yes, yes.
That's
That
what
is
we have
why
to do.
this Gunatit aspect will answer that question, Dr. Pushpaji, tomorrow, no? Because
Ah,
because because we should not be limited by our own nature also. So Sattva has its limitation because it is reaching the highest aspect on the top. Somewhere in the bottom, this area, it is not looking at it at all. So Gunatit is that where a person can move through all three gunas. Then the person knows when to act at the right time, how much has to be spoken. And again, if a Sattvic person need not go and try to convince a Rajasic person, because Sattvic person will look by Sattvic lens, Rajasic person will look by Rajasic lens. Both will not see the same thing. Instead, for getting the work ahead, Krishna has also told before also, na buddhi bhedam. Don't create a divide in the mind. You are selfless, that person is selfish. Let that be understood clearly and then move ahead, put something in the middle. So which will satisfy the selfish nature also, which will help your selfless work go ahead also.
but sometimes, most of the times, the Sattvic person
Is
alone
suffering.
is
Yes. No, we will see
while
tomorrow. No,
others,
we will see
because
tomorrow, Ji. We will see tomorrow where, how much,
okay.
what is this
Mm.
Gunatit? That is something
Ah,
which Krishna is sharing. Yes, Ji. Hari Om.
okay, okay. Thank
Yes,
you
Ji.
so
Hari Om.
much.
Hari Om, Ji. Hari Om, Ji. Hari Om, Ji.
Hari Om.
Hari Om. Hari Om. Hari Om. Hari Om, Ji. Hari Om. I think Srinivas Ji is disconnected. All right. Hari Om. Hari Om.